Hi everyone, so I've been hearing a lot about 32-bit float audio recording and I wanted to know more about it. So I looked it up, which you can do the same, and it tells you that it's basically more bit depth of your audio recording. So it's recording more data, and because it's recording more of the highs and the lows, you can actually adjust your volume, your audio volume, in a better way in post-production. You don't have to worry so much about things being really quiet, things being really loud. And as a single shooter, you often find that you've got multiple people on camera, you're recording more than one or two microphones, and it can be difficult to manage getting the sound levels right for people. The other thing that can happen, of course, is, and you may have had this yourself, you're doing a sound check, just getting someone to say what they had for breakfast before you start recording. And then when they start, they either talk much more quietly or much more loudly. And if you're shooting on your own as well and there's more than one person, you might need to be adjusting it. Well, if you're doing that in post-production, that's great. So I tested this out. I did it so that I talked really quietly and also really loudly just to see what would happen here. Now, right now I've got this lapel mic, which is recording on the camera. And then I've got this shotgun mic here, which is recording onto this Zoom F3, which has the 32-bit float. The camera doesn't. And there's an interesting microphone coming out, the Wireless Pro, that has, which I use a lot, the Rode Wireless Go. Not the Rode Wireless Go, the Rode Wireless Pro. Now I use the Wireless Go 2s and they're really great. And they can record onto the transmitter as a backup. But now they're going to do it in 32-bit float audio. So basically, if something happens, like someone talks really quietly, you can actually lift it in post-production. And the great thing is it doesn't bring up the noise levels, and we're going to do this and have a look at it. The other thing that's useful is if someone starts shouting or talking too loud, where it looks like it's distorted, it actually isn't, and you can then bring it down without noticing any of the distortion. If you did that on the camera, you wouldn't be able to get rid of that distortion. So if you were to look at something like this, and there are other brands, there are no ways on here to adjust the audio. There's no dial or volume control to record that. It does have this, which is a sort of waveform here, and it's basically, you can put in like a magnification, 2 times, 4 times, 8 times 16, 64 and 128 on this at least. And you might see it distorting here, but actually it's only really a kind of indication. So I've done it here where I've talked really quietly, and I've done it where I've shouted, and we're going to go and have a look at how I can fix that now on the computer. Oh, so by the way, make sure that you've got your software up to date so that it can handle the 32-bit float. I've done this using Final Cut Pro, and I've also done it on Premiere Pro as well. I do use Camtasia quite a bit. As far as I can tell, it doesn't work on Camtasia, but then you're not normally doing sort of professional, sort of that type of recording on Camtasia. So let's go to the computer and let's have a look at how it works on there. So I've loaded my clips into Premiere Pro here. This does work the same in other packages like Final Cut Pro and others, but just make sure they're up to date so they can handle this 32-bit float audio. So I've got here my camera clip, and this is the audio here in the row just below it, and that's the audio in the camera. And down here, in the 5th row down here, is the audio from the Zoom F3, which records 32-bit float audio. And you can see this is the bit here where I talked quietly, and over here is the bit where it's distorting, and you can see it's really peaking here as well. And we're going to see what happens if I try and fix that with the camera, and also if I try and fix it with the Zoom F3. So I've muted the Zoom F3 for now, and you can see that if I play it quietly, you can actually lift it in post-production. And the great thing is it doesn't bring up the noise levels, and we're going to do this and have a look at it. The other thing that's useful is if someone starts shouting or talking too loud, where it looks like it's distorted, you get my point. Okay, so what I'm going to do is right here, I've synchronized these together, so let's just find the point where I start talking quietly. So basically, if something happens, like someone talks. Okay, so let's just cut this. I'm going to cut this here and here, and then I'm going to have it in post-production. Okay, let's just cut it there. So I'm just going to be adjusting the levels on these bits, and let's just go to here. And then we'll be able to do what we like without impacting anything around it. So I'm just going back to my select tool. So I've got my audio here. Quietly, you can actually lift it in post. Let's see what happens if I try and do that. So I'm in my audio mixer here. Quietly, you can actually lift it. Now you might not be able to hear it, but I can actually hear. Really quietly, you can actually lift it. The background noise has gone up. Okay, let's mute that. Let's unmute this, which is the one from the F3. Actually lift it in post-production. Actually, it's a nicer sound. Let's lift it right all the way up. I'm doing everything a bit extreme. Quietly, you can actually lift it in post-production. And the great thing... That's pretty clean, actually. That's really nice. So that's what happens. Actually lift it in post-production. So if someone starts talking too quietly, you can lift it without sort of raising all that background noise. Let's just go over to here. Let's go back to the camera and let's see. If someone starts shouting or talking too loud. Let's just cut that. And let's go back to select. Let's pick this. And let's just drop this down. Start shouting or talking too. So you can see it's not peaking here. Just watch the meter over loud. Here. You wait. But it's still distorting, isn't it? Hopefully you can hear this via this being uploaded. Someone starts shouting or talking to... Okay, I'm sure you could have heard that. So let's just mute that. Let's do this one. I'm going to bring this. Let's just have a quick listen. Someone starts shouting. Okay, let's bring this down. So this is on the 32-bit float recording. Someone starts shouting or talking too loud. Where it looks like it's distorted. It's not distorting. Isn't that amazing? I think this is so... I'm going to just do that again. Okay, so let's just do this with the Zoom F3, the 32-bit float. Someone starts shouting or talking too loud. Of course you can hear them shouting, but no distortion versus the camera. Someone starts shouting or talking too loud. Where it looks like it's the distortion is there. Wow, isn't this going to be good? When will cameras have this 32-bit float audio? I'm sure it will come eventually. But for right now, you've got this things like the Zoom F3. Other brands make it as well. They have in the Zoom range as well. They've got some with more inputs. I saw one that actually might be useful, which has got 6 inputs for me. Sometimes when I'm recording events, I've got more than just 2, 3 or 4, and sometimes I can get caught out. And now as long as I check that the microphones aren't rubbing or anything like that, and you should always be monitoring what you're doing anyway, then at least I know I can fix it afterwards. And how many times have you had more than 2, 3 or 4 people and people are talking at different levels, and it's just quite difficult to monitor it when you're on your own. So I think this is a really, really good feature. I have actually ordered the Wireless Pro from Rode, and hopefully I'll get that really soon and I'll be able to test that out, because I love the fact that that little transmitter is also a recorder, and that gives me a backup. And the other thing that's really great about it is it actually outputs time code, so I can synchronize it perfectly with my cameras. Although you can sync audio here within it using the synchronize and getting it to do the audio, there are moments where it's not worked right. So having the time code on both will be great. Thanks for watching. If you do like this, please do like, share and subscribe, and come back for more.